Hello and thank you for joining us from wherever you are. We are live from our studios here in Kukumlimli. Our digital address GA0992539. Our top stories this hour. A 28-year-old stabbed to death in Banda in the Bono region as tensions brew between NDC and NPP supporters at a registration center there. We hear from his family and eyewitnesses of the killed fresh graduate who says he was mistaken for an NDC activist even though he was just passing by. Also coming up, more coronavirus cases recorded in senior high schools as figures for Accra girls alone surges from 6 to beyond 55. We'll take you to the school where there is heavy police presence as parents remain in limbo over which option works best. And as the cases soar and health workers die, we introduce you to a new JoyNews campaign focused on frontline health workers dubbed Save the Health Worker. Yeah. We're live on digital television, which is free to air. We're streaming live on YouTube, and of course, we're here on the JoyNews channel. My name is Gifty and Apia. This is The Pulse. Please be my guest. Welcome to the show and many thanks for staying here with us. Now, there is positive news today as the Ghana Health Service is reporting that no single COVID-19 case has been recorded in 10 regions as of July 11. Speaking at the bi-weekly news conference at the Information Ministry, Director of Public Health at the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Bedusa Kodie, said the country has recorded 264 new cases as of July 11.
Total number of cases reported 25,252 positive cases. These cases were identified through general surveillance and enhanced contact tracing. The total cumulative cases within surveillance, we have 10,105 positive cases. And then enhanced contact tracing, we have 15,147 positive cases. The total number of tests conducted as of now are 334,101, with the majority of the samples taken through enhanced contact tracing. On recoveries and discharges, total number of recoveries and discharges are 21,391. Unfortunately, 139 people have died related to COVID. Active cases totally now stands at 3,716. And these cases are being managed in the various treatment sites, isolation centers, and then some of them under home management. 25 of the cases are classified as severe, 8 as critical condition, and then 4 of them on ventilators. The slide you see now are the 27-day moving average based on the date the sample was taken. And then the purple-colored line graph indicates the 7-day moving average. And clearly, you see that there have been a surge in recent times, and we are on downward trend as of now.
Meanwhile, there is heavy police presence on the Accra Girls SHS campus where 55 students of the school have tested positive for coronavirus. JoyNews' Maxwell Agbagba has been to the school where parents who masked up there this morning are divided on their next line of action.
Now, when we came here, the school authorities will not speak to us. They would also not allow us to get access to the school campus itself. The security man here would not allow us to go to the school campus. Some parents, however, have been showing up here. I've seen about 10 of them who've come here this morning to check on their children. Basically, that is the situation here. It appears classes are going on as normal here at the Accra Girls Senior High School, as the school has recorded about 55 cases of coronavirus. We are told that the persons who've been infected have been transferred to national isolation and treatment centers. Other measures have also been put in place according to the Ghana Health Service and the Ghana Education Service. In that joint statement, they talked about counselors and psychologists who are on standby to help students who are going through some trauma of a sort to overcome, that situation. We also told that they've reduced the number of students who go for their dining. We are told that they've also disinfected the school campus to call any, possible virus that may be on the campus. We've not had a lot of parents trooping here to withdraw their children. Just what is happening here today is completely different from what we saw last week when news first broke that 6 of the students have tested positive for the virus.
Having they close it down, why is it that if the schools are having a problem, why wouldn't they close it down? What can I do? What can I do? We have been talking. The PTA, everybody is saying it, but they still don't want to release their children. What? I'm worried because I have only one daughter. They should release my daughter for me. Okay. That's all.
She's your only daughter?
Yes.
Do you know if she's part of those who tested?
She is not part of them.
But don't you think she's safer on campus rather?
They should test them and release them. They should test them and release those who are negative. And then see to those who are positive. That's all we are asking for.
You hear your news?
She says that the school authorities have been telling them that even if their children are infected and they come for the children and they take them home, there's a possibility of a spread whilst they are at home. So she says that they think it's a possibility, and that is why majority of them have not been here this morning to demand the withdrawal of their children like we saw sometime last week.
Now, mother of deceased student at the KNUST Senior High School is raising concerns over government's promise and assurance of protection for students before recalling them to school. An emotional comfort Beidou tells Love News she is worried that schools would be open to voter registration when she had been denied access to his son on 3 occasions. Her son died after school authorities at the KNUST SHS delayed in sending the deceased, who was unwell, to the hospital over fears he may have coronavirus. Erastus Sasaridonko has more in this report.
17-year-old business student Sam Leonard Richards died after a video shows he was left in the care of his colleagues for 3 hours after complaining of severe stomach pains. From this house in the heart of Kokobin New Site, Kumasi, he had been commuting to and from school as a day student for 3 years. His mother, Madame Comfort Beidou, tells me she allowed him to go to the boarding house because of the assurance by government and school authorities he would be protected.
As my parents no behind school, son and Adwakan, yes, Bakra ambulance and a nurse near dear. We
were told that the president has directed that all parents should stay away from the school. They said ambulance and nursing services would be provided for 6 students. So we placed our trust in the teachers. I even followed up to the senior housemaster's house, and he further assured me my son was in safe hands. In a video that has gone viral, her son is seen writhing in pain, with students providing solace while teachers look on, supposedly for fear of COVID-19. Sam died after his dad picked him up for hospital 3 hours later. After the father raced through traffic with a taxi to get to the school, my son was on the ground surrounded by the students. He was weak when he was put into the vehicle. A visibly sad and angry mother describes her last moments with her son. I ran through the streets and alleys of Dr. Mensah in the dark, falling and rising to my feet. He was so weak when I finally met him at the hospital. He told me, "Mama, you came too late." I said, "Nana, they didn't call me early enough. If they knew, they couldn't help my son. They should have told me." Madame Beidu had questions for the teachers in whose care she had put her son.
Okay,
why did they just stand there and watch my son? Why didn't they do anything? Tech Hospital is just around the corner. Why didn't they even call an ambulance? The family seeks justice and relief from government. We plead with government. Whether justice or relief is in government's hands. We are watching government. Sam's father, Sam Richards Sr., and his wife say they are awaiting a visit from officials of the Ghana Education Service and some family members to decide on burial arrangements.
But until we meet them, we can't. We meet who? The committee and those up there should come. The school authorities should come, so we can sit down and let our intentions be known to them.
Reporting for JoyNews, Erastus Asaredonko, Kumasi.
Certainly a very hard pill to swallow. Well, the Director General of the Ghana Education Service, Professor Kwesiopokwa Mankwa, has been giving an update on the situation in schools where he says sporadic cases are being recorded.
Public schools, which are government schools, and then private schools. So all of those schools were disinfected. We also, as part of that, supplied what we call wash facilities, the Veronica buckets, the soaps, sanitizers, etc. And then thermometer guns. The thermometer guns were given to every school from JHS right down to the university. And this one, all these things were also given to all public and private schools at the cost of the government. The next thing that we did was to have an engagement with the various key stakeholders who are going to go to the who are going to be part of the program. For parents, we did a lot of education on TV, radio, and things like that. For the teachers and the staff, we had engagement with the unions, we had engagement with CHAS, APTI, we had engagement with our district, and then our regional directors, and we all got to know the do's and don'ts that we have to be doing. We also, with collaboration with Information and Ghana Health, sent out one sheet do's and don'ts that we asked the schools to print out and then paste at various vantage points. Subsequently, Information has also worked with us to provide posters and flyers that have also gone to the schools on education. To ensure that the supplies went, and also to ensure that there's compliance with the COVID-19 safety and protocols, safety and health protocols, we also set up a joint team with MOE, GES, and Ghana Health Service to go out into the schools, not to sample the schools, but make sure that virtually every school has been visited. First, to ensure that the items that have been supplied are all in there, and also to ensure that we are complying by the safety protocols. And we had about 300 or so plus teams from the national, regional, and district who are working all through the country. In fact, for the past 2 weeks, we've been out there doing that work. And fortunately, we have been able to make sure that we pick all the issues that needs to be addressed. For some of them, they have said that you can readily address them. For others, you may have to come back and then address them. Another key area as part of ensuring that everything goes well is training and giving information to the teachers and the health and the staff who will be handling, as well as the children. Subsequently, we've done what we call master training, we've done our regional training, we've done our district training. Starting today, the training for teachers and heads of schools and selected teachers are going to run for the next week or two to ensure that we all have the basic understanding and the basic things that we need to do. The monitoring is an ongoing thing. Once we've come and we do our reports and we do the fillings and we fill the gaps and other things, the next round of monitoring will start hopefully next week or the week after. We want to ensure that we, as much as possible, any issues that come up, we are on top of the issues and be able to address them.
The Ghana Health Service is also admonishing Ghanaians not to substitute the wearing of face shields with face masks. Director of Disease Surveillance, Dr. Franklin Asiedu-Bekwin, says the face shield alone does not provide enough protection. He explains further on what you must do.
Be on hard surfaces that you may touch. So as you touch, you may touch your eyes, your nose, or your mouth. You may get infection. So in that context, we preach hand washing with soap and running water. So that is the basis for that other intervention. But then there are instances that you may not be able to maintain that required social distance, or what we call the physical distance. So you need to have a blockage. And that blockage comes to the use of the face mask, or what they call the face covering. And it's very, very important. But the idea is that you are trying to prevent the virus from getting into the mucosa of any part of the body that may get the infection. So you try to prevent your nose, your mouth from the virus from getting into you. So what best can you use? And that's how this idea of a face mask comes in. So the indication is the use of face mask. But then there are instances that maybe you may not be able to use the face mask. And let me be clear. I'm reading from the CDC recommendations. And what he's saying is that it's indicated that the face shield is indicated when persons with hearing impairment or those who care for or interact with a person who is hearing impaired, they may be unable to wear cloth face covering if they rely on lip reading. As we speak now, the gentleman on our left, early stages of this outbreak, you could see that they were virtually very nothing. And there was a lot of complaints that why are we preaching face masks and they are not wearing it? It's because we do face lip reading. So in that case, you cannot cover the lips and say that you can communicate to somebody who has a hearing impairment. So that is the only indication whereby you can say that I am now going to use facial. But for the purpose of addressing the challenge of the infection, the first point of call is the face mask. And I think that we want to employ all Ghanaians that let's use the face mask, because that's the surest way that you can actually prevent yourself from getting infection. If you want to wear the face mask, the face shield, then it must be on top of a mask. But it should not be an alternative to the use of a face mask. And I want to assure all Ghanaians that it's not for convenience sake that we are replacing a face shield with a face mask, but the purpose of preventing infection.
Ghana Health Service is also admonishing Ghanaians on how to wear the mask or the face shield. They're saying not to substitute the wearing of face shields with a mask. Director of Health Promotion at the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Dacosta Abuaje, is joining me on Zoom. Hi, Dr. Dacosta. Thank you for your time this afternoon. I'm hoping that you can hear me, Doc, so we can start our conversation on the face shields. For the ordinary eye, wearing a face shield essentially covers your face up, makes it difficult for any sort of droplets to come close to you. How is it not enough? Well, we can get to hear from Dr. Dacosta Abuaje shortly. Let's listen to what the Ghana Health Service says.
Be on hard surfaces that you may touch. So as you touch, you may touch your eyes, your nose, or your mouth. You may get infection. So in that context, we preach hand washing with soap and running water. So that is the basis for that other intervention. But then there are instances that you may not be able to maintain that required social distance, or what we call the physical distance. So you need to have a blockage. And that blockage comes to the use of the face mask, or what they call the face covering. And it's very, very important. But the idea is that you are trying to prevent the virus from getting into the mucosa of any part of the body that may get infection. So you try to prevent your nose, your mouth from the virus from getting into you.
Let's get on Zoom right now. Dr. Dacosta Abuaje joins me. Doc, thank you for your time this afternoon. I was asking for you to give us more education on why a face shield is just not enough.
Okay, thank you. In fact, in the light of the new evidence that we have, we certainly know that the virus suspends in a confined air conditioning room. So it is not advisable to wear a face shield in such a condition and in such an environment. We will implore our media houses of personnel to wear the face mask. And if you need additional layer, you can wear the face shield as well. So it should be together, but it shouldn't be alone. So that is what is happening. But ideally, my colleague explained at the press conference, initially, even if you look at the EI, it was in because of the people with hearing impairment and other things. So it is certainly not a substitute for a face mask. So let me repeat it again. I will encourage Ghanaians to wear the face shield with the face mask, or the face mask alone, not the face shield.
Not the face shield alone. Let's do a bit more of education. For people who still don't seem to get it, because we've been saying this for some time now, but there are still people who seem to believe that it's just, I mean, the face shield is enough. Does it mean that we should just dump the face shield altogether, because there's no point if it doesn't protect, and if we have to wear that and wear the mask again? To what extent does it help if we don't have to dump it altogether?
Oh, thank you. So like I've said, our protocol is that people should wear face masks. And we have the three types of the face mask, which we have the N95, we have the cloth one, and we have the surgical ones. So that is what is recommended. But people can wear the face shield as an additional layer to protect themselves, depending on where they are, but not necessary to add any protection to it. So the minimal protection that we expect Ghanaians to have is, will be derived from the face mask, the three types, that's the surgical, the cloth one, and the N95. But if you like, you can wear the face shield as an additional layer. But the face shield should not be used alone, whether in the marketplace, whether in confined places, or anywhere. We've seen the trend. Now, today, there was a little bit of good news. If you could remember, our infection active cases actually keeps reducing. I mean, obviously, it's reduced from 5,000 to about 3,000 and something. So if Ghanaians should continue to adhere to the safety protocols, it means we will certainly be getting a downward trend. And that is what we like. So we don't want a situation whereby people actually keep wearing the face shield, and that becomes another a problem for us as a country, and also in terms of the education. So what I would actually say is that people should actually concentrate on what we have advised them to do in the safety protocols, which is the face mask, any of the 3 types, but more importantly, if you want to wear the face shield, wear it with a face mask on.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dacosta Abuaji. He's Director of Health Promotion with the Ghana Health Service, helping us with a bit of education there on why the face mask or the face shield alone is not enough, especially when you're in a concentrated area. We'll keep doing these education, sessions, and hopefully we'll be able to get there. Well, the cases are soaring. People are dying. A medical doctor has revealed he may have infected many of his patients with COVID-19 after treating one who eventually died from the virus. The doctor took a COVID-19 test after the patient had died, but his result came back after 15 days, during which time he had been attending to other patients. Health editor Fred Smith, a COVID-19 survivor himself, spoke to the doctor, who blames the situation on the lack of PPEs and the delay in testing. He spoke on condition of anonymity.
COVID-19 continues to spread around the world. Ghana is no exception. We've had more than 24,000 cases so far, and 139 persons have already died. In our series capturing the experiences of frontline health workers, we catch up with a doctor whose identity we conceal because of the sensitive nature of the information he'll be giving us. We welcome him, and for the purposes of this interview, I just call him Doctor. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you.
Share with us the experiences you've had. You've been treating persons for different ailments, but of course some happen to have tested positive for COVID in the end. Share your experience so far.
Well, when the COVID first came to Ghana, we were using guidelines of somebody who had traveled outside the country, with fever, headache, maybe respiratory symptoms to suspect. Then it spread to the community, and those criteria were no longer applicable. There was no longer any travel history. People were coming from the community who had not traveled. And then we found out that some of those symptoms that they gave us, headache, fever, were only in a minority of people. We gradually moved to the stage where we practically had to suspect anybody who came with any serious illness as COVID. But then some of them, like a case of a 20-year-old girl that I had, was just perplexing.
What was the specific case with this 20-year-old girl?
So this 20-year-old girl, apparently, according to the mother, the day that she was, the morning of the evening that she was brought to us, she had just looked dull, was not her usual self. After breakfast, there was no improvement. She was just looking weaker. So they took her to a clinic later in the afternoon, where the clinic found that her blood pressure was very low. She was in shock. And so they gave her 3 liters of IV fluid, which normally should give some improvement in the blood pressure. But blood pressure was still low, unrecordably low. So that's when they referred her to our hospital, tertiary hospital. She arrived with in coma with a blood pressure of only 70 systolic. That's profound shock. So we gave her 2 liters more of fluid, rapid infusion, what we call bolus. In 90 minutes, we had given the 2 liters of fluid, and the blood pressure improved to 120/70.
What is the ideal?
Ideal blood pressure, the top number should be at least 90, 90 systolic.
Okay, and she had 70, which means it was very low.
She was very low, she was in shock.
For someone who had never had any such problem?
She was totally, according to the parents, she was totally well, did not have any problem, no diabetes, no asthma, nothing. She was a very healthy SHS graduate. So then we also realized during the initial stabilization that after we got a blood pressure that she was twitching in one of her arms. So we suspected that she was having convulsion, but it wasn't too clear. But we went ahead and gave her a tranquilizer, what we call anticonvulsant. And then we monitored her through the night. Then in the morning, during a review, we realized that she was not having a full-blown convulsion. And the nurses told us that was around 8 o'clock. They told her that 3 hours earlier, around 5 o'clock, she had what we were seeing, a full-blown seizure. And she had called the attention of the young doctors, and they had given her additional tranquilizer. So we tried to turn her on her side so she wouldn't vomit and aspirate. And when we were doing that, the nurse called our attention to the fact that she had just passed black stool, which is highly suggestive of internal bleeding. So at that point, when we looked through her labs, we realized that one of the elements in the blood called platelets that usually keeps you from bleeding spontaneously was dangerously low. Instead of the minimum of 150,000 to 450,000, hers was 35,000. So we thought at that point that maybe the seizure was also due to maybe bleeding to the brain. Now we had an answer for why she was in shock, because she was bleeding internally. But why is she having a convulsion? At that point we thought, oh, maybe she bled into her brain just like she bled into her intestine. So we took her to CAT scan, and we scanned her brain. There was no bleeding in her brain. So we were left wondering what we were dealing with. Why was she having a seizure? We know why she came in shock, but now why? But at that point, all we wanted to do was stabilize her, so we gave her additional and different type of tranquilizer. So with the 2 types of tranquilizer now, her breathing was going to be compromised. So we decided to take her to the intensive care unit. It was then that the ICU staff, demanded that we test her for COVID. Initially, we were a little incredulous, but we went ahead and tested her.
Oh, you did?
Yes, we took the samples. We made a team go and take her samples, and then the ICU said, okay, they will give her a bed. So we admitted her to the ICU. Unfortunately for us...
This was before her test results would come out?
Yes. Unfortunately for us, in spite of all our efforts, she passed on less than 24 hours later. Then, a week later, the COVID test results came back positive.
Wow, she was COVID positive.
She was COVID positive. So now everything made sense to us. The convulsion she was having, told us that the COVID had actually infected the brain and the blood. We didn't have the chance to do a CT scan or chest X-ray because of her condition. We just barely managed to do a brain scan, like I said. So it at that point that, in fact, we had actually asked for an autopsy to be done on her. And the results came, fortunately for us, just a day before the autopsy was scheduled to be done. So we had to quickly inform the pathologist that this was a new twist to their case. And, if they didn't want to do the autopsy, that would be understandable. But I think they still decided to go ahead and do the autopsy to see for themselves. Yes, so this girl's test result came almost a week after she had died.
Wow. That opens up all of you who treated her to COVID, if she was positive for COVID before you started treating her, then you would have been exposed.
Yes. Oh, yeah, because when she was in the emergency room and she was having a convulsion, she was foaming at the mouth, and that generates a lot of droplets and aerosol. Yes, we had our N95 on. We had to reuse them anyway. We had them on, but this N95, it takes a lot of being particular not to transfer infection from it into yourself unknowingly, because you wear this 8 hours. You are supposed to recycle it, so you sometimes try to adjust and touch the outer surface of the nose, the mask, and then unknowingly transfer it actually infect yourself later.
Why do you have to recycle for a tertiary hospital? Why don't you just change?
Oh, we are supplied one N95 mask every 3 to 4 weeks. It's just not in the hospital say that they don't have it.
Sorry, if you can explain. A doctor or a health professional gets one mask
every 3
to 4 weeks.
Yes. We are told plain, you have to recycle it, you keep it. So when you get one, then 3 weeks later you get another one, then the one that you'll be using can rest for a while, then you use a new one, and then for some time go back to the old one. That's what we've been told to do.
Is that exactly what you do? Do you have to buy some to augment because it looks woefully inadequate? You definitely have to be changing almost every now and then whilst you are treating patients, isn't it?
Yes, so we have to buy them. But around May, early June, it was not even easily available on the market. So you had to depend on, call on friends who know somebody. Now it's fairly easily available on the market, so we're just buying it ourselves. We're just buying it. What I'm wearing now for this interview, I bought myself. A pack of 10 for 70 Ghana.
I see. Did you test yourself and your colleagues who were treating this patient?
No, I had taken care of another patient who was COVID in every possible sense that CT scan, everything, and she tested negative. The first test was negative, but fortunately for her, we were giving her high-dose steroid because we were thinking something else, which responds to steroids, before we later did a CT scan and said, oh, this is COVID. But we continued when we moved her to the COVID ward, we insisted that they continue the high-dose steroid. And this lady got off oxygen and did very well and went home. So with her case, I went to test, and I was negative. That test result came back, I think, within 4 days of my test, and was negative. So when this girl's test also came, I didn't even hear her results from my colleagues. In other words, the public health department and the COVID team that is in charge of the test results, they were supposed to notify all the doctors and nurses involved in the care of any patient who test results come positive. Actually,
you mean you were not told that this person you had treated and had died had COVID?
No, I did not hear from my public health team. I actually heard it from the deceased brother. The deceased brother told one of my young doctors who worked on her, told him that he had been called his sister's test result for COVID came back positive, and that he has to come and test. And that is how I got to know. And only fortunate because I had asked for autopsy to be done on her, and the autopsy was going to be done the day after the results came. So they had called, my young daughter had called me originally to inform me that the autopsy was coming on the following day. And then, oh, by the way, the patient's test for COVID came back positive. And how did you know this? Well, the deceased brother called my other colleague to tell him. And up to today, as I give you this interview, no official communication of the results from the police department has been given to me.
How long ago was this?
Oh, this was going on 4 weeks. You know, so the day after the results, I heard that she was positive. I went and tested, and that test result was communicated to me almost 15 days later as being positive.
You tested positive too?
Yes, I tested positive.
Could it be the case that the patient actually picked up the infection from the hospital?
No. That girl, remember, she came in, critically ill. So I don't think she picked, and she only lasted in the hospital less than 24 hours. She came to the hospital on Wednesday night, critically ill. I reviewed the case on Thursday and took her to ICU, and then she died Friday by 11. So she was not here long enough to have picked the infection from the hospital. And also all her clinical, looking back, the convulsion she had, the low platelets that led to intestinal hemorrhage, were all well-known presentations of COVID. So I don't think she got it from the hospital. Okay. But I'm very positive that I contracted the COVID from her.
What does this situation tell us about the spread of COVID in our health facilities, especially among our health professionals?
Oh, I think if you go to any of our hospitals, the private clinics, the teaching hospitals, the teacher hospitals, I think if you do mass testing of the health workers, I think you'll be surprised to find over. I would put it 70–80% of us would test positive, and fortunately we are not ill. We are asymptomatic, but the positivity rate I'll put in that region, because it is just about any ward you go to in my hospital has had a COVID patient mistakenly admitted there, and people will be there 2–3 days, then we realize that, oh, this is COVID. Or some people will test, some of them will suspect they test negative, and then with the last one done, when they are dead, will come back positive. So I think the health workers are under assault. We are no more just front line. We are front, center, and whatever you would say. And for me, it's more of our families that scare me. We take these things home to our families. Yes, we may be asymptomatic, but you give it to a family member who will not be lucky and can become critically ill. Because this COVID virus deals with everybody differently. So the testing, healthcare workers, we should be routinely tested weekly. We should routinely test. I mean, if people are workers at other places are being routinely tested, people around, the high people, the important people are tested. Their drivers, their security men are tested frequently. Healthcare. In my case, because I was asymptomatic, and the results took. Looking back, I should have, just because my patient was positive, I should have self-isolated. But you remember, I didn't get this communication from any official channel that, oh, your patient test was positive, so we demand that you go for a week or two. I felt, well, so I continued to come to work. guilty that if I didn't come to work, my colleagues would think I'm putting all the work on them. Some of the doctors involved in the care, as far as I know, didn't go to test. I volunteered and went and tested, only to find out 3 weeks later that I was positive.
So during that 15-day period, what were you doing? Were you going to work?
I came to work. I came to work regularly. You know, I did consultation.
You actually treated patients?
Sorry?
Did you treat patients?
Yeah, I touched patients. I treated patients because I sanitized, but I talked to patients. I examined patients. I did ward rounds. And only God knows if and how many patients I might have infected, unknowingly infected. That's the tragedy of the whole situation.
This is scary. What advice would you give in trying to improve management of COVID, especially in our health facilities?
The solution to the problem is obvious. First of all, the turnaround for the test should come within hours, at most a day or two of testing somebody. The results, we should have the results. As it is, turnaround time is going as long as 3 weeks or more. In fact, after my test was communicated to me, I voluntarily now stayed out. I took my whole family in to be tested. As I speak to you, it's been 10 days, going on 10 days, and the results are still not in. So, one, testing results the turnaround should be realistic, should come in time. And two, healthcare frontline workers should be mass tested, at least weekly. At least weekly. They should be required to test. As it is today, when I met the group and I asked how many people here who have not gone to test since they started, at least 3 people raised their hands. I mean, that is just unrelated thing that they are with us. We all interact, and some of us get infected, and they don't get infected. Yeah, okay. So it should be mandatory for all healthcare workers to test, regularly. Now, let's take this case that I discussed in this interview. Now, I don't know whether the clinic that she was referred from, anybody communicated to them that the patient they sent to us later tested COVID. It's not my job to do that. It's the job of the public health. I don't know whether they did it or not. If me, the doctor who is actually to take care of the patient in our hospital, I was not told, I doubt that anybody even bothered to talk to the clinic where she was referred from. So it's a mess. I think that's the best way for it, that we're in a mess. We're in a mess. I don't know how we're going to dig ourselves out of this. But frequent testing and communicating this to the people. Initially, I think there was a lot of enthusiasm. There was contact tracing, enhanced contact tracing. If I remember the words that the communication information minister used. But I don't know where all that has gone now.
Wow. This is worrying.
Yeah, it's frightening, right? It's totally frightening. I tell friends that this is not the time to get your relative admitted to the hospital if it's not absolutely necessary. And just on rounds today, I told people who come with things that are not COVID, who are fairly well, should be let to go home if their treatment doesn't require any further injection. If the treatment is down to just tablets, let them go. Because who knows that the patient in a bed next to them is COVID.
All right. But I'd like to say thank you very much for speaking to us.
You're most welcome. You're most welcome.
Health editor Fred Smith there. Well, the story that Fred Smith tells is not isolated. This doctor is not alone. Currently, over 700 health workers are known to have been infected across the country. At least 2 have died. It's the reason that the multimedia group has launched the Save the Health Worker campaign today. And shortly, I'll be joined by Gary Al-Smith, who is leading this campaign. But just last week, the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association voiced their concerns about the pressure faced by members at health facilities in the country. Currently, over 700, like I said, once again, workers are known to have been infected by the disease. Gary Al-Smith joins me right now. He is a survivor, as you may well be aware of, and he's here with me on Zoom. Hi, Gary.
Hello, Gifty.
Gary,
thank you for having me.
Great. Let's start with what we're seeking to achieve with this campaign.
As you heard from the fine gentleman speaking there are real challenges. So first of all, I think that, what this campaign seeks to achieve is to collaborate with all stakeholders to achieve the common purpose of saving the health worker by making their work easier, by also making sure that they are as protected as possible, and also ensuring that in the end, the number of cases is as low as possible. So first and foremost, that is it. But if we should distill it down to the smaller points, Gifty, I think that we can talk about the adequate provision and timely release of PPEs. Adequate provision and timely release of PPEs. We heard the information minister on Beyond the Lockdown on Sunday speaking, quite eloquently that, the government has done its part by releasing the PPEs on time, but they have found out that some people in the value chain, are not doing the needful, and so the things are not getting there on time. What happens when this happens? When this happens, the net effect, Gifty, is that doctors who are working so hard are needlessly exposed to the dangers of COVID-19, and then you have the case where doctors are getting ill. They are not getting tested in time. A lot of them are positive and are infecting others. The chain continues. We have some doctors dying, others going on leave, others being isolated. And in the end, when the ordinary Ghanaian like you and I get ill, go to the hospital, we don't have enough health workers to take care of us because of some of these reasons. So this is essentially what we want to achieve, Gifty.
Right. Let's move on to bring people into the idea, of this campaign. What exactly will be involved in this campaign?
I think that the idea behind this campaign is to be an amplification tool, Gifty. We always hear that the media is the fourth estate of the realm. Mm-hmm. And so essentially what it is that when issues are, being discussed or solutions are being sought, we simply can give it the volume it deserves. And we seek to, or we believe more accurately, we believe that if you look at the entire COVID-19 chain, from the government who are doing their utmost best, to the civil society, to the health workers themselves, to the ordinary man on the street, it seems that the one group of people who are in the middle, who are caught in the middle no matter what happens, are the health workers. What do I mean by this? Whether the government does its job well or doesn't do it well or doesn't do it adequately enough, the health workers eventually are the ones who are going to take care of all the sick people and the rising cases. When the ordinary man on the street, as we report every day, fails to observe the social distancing and the other protocols, fail to sanitize and they get ill, they go eventually to the health worker. So from down to top, everybody seems to go to the health worker when things get bad. So the least we can do is to equip the health workers, ensure that they have what they need to execute their jobs well, and also to feel as protected as possible.
Let's end our conversation with measuring of the successes or otherwise. And I have no doubts that it will be a success, hopefully. Even if we don't do anything, one life will be saved. One health person's life will be saved. But Tell us about measuring of successes as far as this campaign is concerned.
Now, the thing about, as we have learned at the multimedia group and Gifty, I mean, you've been, instrumental in several of, for example, the one we did, against Clean Ghana, Arrive Alive, and so on. You do know that when we cover news items on a daily basis, ad hoc, maybe on the 6 o'clock news, on the 12 o'clock news, on the 3 p.m. news, on Pulse, and so on, they seem to be sort of all over the place. But when you centralize them under a campaign, we are able to focus our attentions better. We are able to drive resources better. But even more crucially, because the total sum of what we do is not measured by what we produce but by what people consume, right, and how they consume it, then you are able to draw people's focus to what you, the station, think is an important issue. So by having this banner, Save the Health Worker, what we are saying is that, yes, the entire effort for managing COVID-19 is important, but maybe what may be the game changer is if we centralize efforts to protect the health worker and we do it properly.
Doing it properly, so what this is about. Gary, thank you so much. It's good to have you, and once again, congratulations that you beat COVID-19, you and my producer, Fred Smith, together. So together, we'll be doing this. Gary L. Smith there, he's coordinating our new campaign, Save the Health Worker. Welcome back to the show. I want to take you back to the Ashanti region, Kumasi to be specific. Erastus Asare Donko is standing by and monitoring a particular meeting that is supposed to be an investigative committee investigating the matter that happened at the KNUST Senior High School where that young man died. Erastus is here on Zoom with me. Erastus, it's good to have you. What do we know at this point? I think you're muted, Erastus. Let's unmute and then we can continue with our conversation.
Yes.
Amazing.
So the 7-member fact-finding committee today started its work. It is chaired by one Professor Samson Kofi Ampon, who is with the Department of Physics, KNUST, and he is chairing the committee. Today, after the session, I spoke with him, and he said that today they were able to interview the interdicted headmistress of the school. They also interviewed the senior housemaster for the school as well. So they were able to do the 2 interviews today. It lasted for close to 4 hours. It started around 9 a.m. in the morning, and they finished about an hour ago. And the committee is tasked with investigating the circumstances that led to the death of the final year student of the KNUST Senior High School. They are also to establish the role played by the various actors, the senior housemaster, the teachers, and the headmistress herself, and present these findings in 2 weeks. And so they will not tell us exactly what transpired within the session today. They're only to tell us that, yes, they were able to interview the 2 personalities, the interdicted headmistress and the senior housemaster, and they are supposed to continue from tomorrow.
They certainly would keep a lot of their cards to their chest, Erastus. I'm just curious to find out whether or not there seem to be 2 teachers or 2 adults in the video in which this gentleman is, helpless. Does the committee, is part of the work of the committee to also find out who those people there at that point are? And do we even know anything about those people?
We do not know yet who those teachers are. You could see them standing from afar, and it's not really clear. But what the students are saying is that the senior housemaster was present. He was at the scene where the incident occurred. There is another house master, one Mr. Oche, who was also present at the scene as well. And so it's not clear whether these are the people we are seeing in the video, but then in the course of the fact-finding committees, we'll be able to establish who these people are.
Okay. Erastus, you've been interacting with mother of this man, this young man who tells the story of the helplessness, the anguish with which she had to go and look for her child, but realized that it was too late at the point that she got there. Let's start with who this gentleman is. I mean, what do we know about him, apart from the fact that he was the school prefect? That's according to his mom.
So he's described as a very brilliant student, and his mother tells us that he wanted to be a bank manager, and so he took up the study of business, and he studied very hard indeed. And many of the students who we spoke to give a very good account of this gentleman. That one, he's not only brilliant, he's somebody who cares about the students to the extent that when her mom comes to school, he tells the mom to buy food for all his friends because he doesn't want to eat and watch them not eating. And so many of the students end up getting cans of sardines when the mother is around and all that. And so they liked him so much. And he's also somebody who is liked by the tutors as well, because some of the teachers also give a very good account of him, that he's somebody who solves some of their questions for them. He even helps in lessons in the classroom and all that. And that is exactly the account that they give about this particular gentleman.
And I'm asking this because usually, I mean, young people get very recalcitrant sometimes. So sometimes the teachers get accustomed to not really paying attention to them when they raise some of these concerns. And I'm just asking, so have an understanding who he is and what his classmates think he is. But he's actually a class prefect, right? Just to correct that, a class prefect, according to his mother.
Yes, he's a class prefect. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Do we have an idea when to hear back from the committee, members on the committee?
Well, they've asked us to give them space to be able to conduct their business. They were telling us that they want to, in the next days, be able to work fervently, invite all those who matter, and be able to also go to the other areas where he was transported to, perhaps the health institutions where he was sent to. We learned that he was sent to the Menchia Government Hospital, and to learn what happened there as well. Since this is a fact-finding committee, they want to get to the bottom of circumstances that led to his death and be able to file a report within the stipulated 2-week period.
Okay.
So it's possible that at the end of their deliberations in 2 weeks, we will be able to get back to them and to establish what then their comments will be.
Okay. 2 quick ones before you go, Erastus. We know that COVID-19 has been ruled out as cause of death. I just want to be sure of that. And also, let's answer that for me first, and then I'll give you my final one.
Come again, your question.
Has COVID been ruled out as cause of death?
Well, there has not been any test that I'm aware of to establish his COVID status. But what I'm hearing from both the teacher's end and the mother's end is that he was suffering from an ulcer, and he has a stomach problem, which comes once in a while. And so that is what they are dealing with. And he kept pointing to his stomach whilst he was riffing in pain. And he kept saying that he has stomach ache. So to them, this has nothing to do with COVID. But we are yet to establish from the committee or the school authorities whether indeed autopsy has been done, whether there are any plans at all to conduct a test to establish his COVID status.
That was going to be my next one, the autopsy thing. So we'll just wait. This is still a developing story. We'll wait and get more on that. Erastus, unless there is another important information you want to add to it, that'll be it for me.
Well, the family is waiting for the Ghana Education Service staff and the teachers front to visit them. They intend to state their position to them. I don't know what that position is, aside what the mom has said already, but they said they had something they wanted to tell the committee. So in the next coming days, we will try to liaise with the Ghana Education Service to see when they will be going to visit them. So we'll learn what the position of the family on this matter is.
Erastus, thank you. Erastus Osari Donko, a correspondent in the Ashanti region, very hard story to tell, but certainly we'll look forward to what the committee has to say. A businessman, Ibrahim Mahama, says he's on a mission to help reduce COVID-19 deaths in the country. He is donating 10 highly sophisticated anesthetic machines to selected health facilities across the country as part of his contribution to the country's fight against COVID-19. The equipment will help in the treatment of critically ill patients, and the University of Ghana Medical Center is the first to take delivery of those machines. Here is Director of Operations at the UGMC, Lucy Aye Bimpong.
On behalf of the Chief Executive Officer of University of Ghana Medical Center, we received this donation and are very grateful for the kind gesture of Mr. Ibrahim Mahama. We know that he's going to do much more, and in his quest to help us fight against the COVID-19, this will be put to very good use. This machine is very important for us, and it will serve our needs very well. So we are most grateful.
So the equipment, when fully delivered, will help reduce the rate of COVID-19 mortalities in Ghana.
We decided to present this ultra-modern ventilator to the UGMC. And this is not the only presentation that we'll be doing. We'll be donating 9 of this one in total, which is 10, to various health facilities across the country. Before, UGMC is one of the main referral centers when it comes to the fight against COVID-19, especially with the critically ill patients. We thought that this is very, very important for us to present this ventilator to the hospitals. And similar donations will be done across the country very soon. That's what, yeah.
Commanding Officer of the Elwak Level 2 Isolation and Treatment Center, Colonel Thomas Aquinas Jibril, is calling on people who are still skeptical about the existence of COVID-19 to disabuse their minds and accept reality. According to Colonel Jibril, the facility is recording more cases of gastrointestinal problems as one of the major symptoms that patients present. He made these comments on the sidelines of a presentation of personal protective equipment made by the U.S. government's Africa Peacekeeping Rapid Response Partnership and the U.S. Embassy on Tuesday.
Well, some people want to see the dead people feely before they believe. But they should not wait till we get there. I think God has been good to us, and we are not recording so many deaths as we even anticipated at the beginning of this pandemic. And so we should not take it for granted. It is real, and people are dying of it. If you haven't seen a person die or somebody close to you hasn't died of it, you count yourself lucky and pray that you don't get there. It is real. We have seen it. We've seen them coming with all sorts of presentations. The other thing is that it's not that typical cough, sore throat. We are seeing more people with gastrointestinal signs and symptoms, abdominal pain, diarrhea, and all that. Loss of smell and all that. And so it is real.
Meanwhile, Major Michael W. Kumara, who is Chief Officer of Security Cooperation at the U.S. Embassy, says that donation by the U.S. government forms part of emergency response efforts by the country to the Ghana Armed Forces.
Our donation today to the Ghana Armed Forces here at Elwak Stadium is really a continuation of our support that we've provided to the Ghana Armed Forces with our donation of the state-of-the-art Level 2 hospitals that we donated earlier this year. The hospitals were originally donated for the Ghana Armed Forces to use during their peacekeeping deployments, and it was a way that the United States could support the wonderful work that the Ghana Armed Forces does abroad in all of their support to peacekeeping. And so their ability to use these hospitals to fight the COVID-19 pandemic is truly a testament to the professionalism of the Ghana Armed Forces, and it really shows the advanced relationship that we have between the U.S. military and the Ghana Armed Forces. And so our donation here today is a continuation of that support that the U.S. government, the U.S. Embassy, United States AFRICOM, Africa Command has with the Ghana Armed Forces.
Away from that, I always pray to God to send the angels to bring me food. Well, that is a prayer that Dari Poga, an old woman believed to be in her 80s, says every morning. She suffered leprosy at a tender age, and that has completely deformed her. She has lost all her 10 fingers and depends on only her 2 big toes to walk. Seth Kwame Boateng, who featured this woman in his latest documentary, Withered Skins, reports the old woman has also been abandoned by her children.
One of the communities where this reality is playing out is Grungo in the Wa West district, about 1.5 hour drive from the Wa municipality. I am headed there. The Gurungu community-based health planning and services is where many of the cases are brought, mostly at very advanced stages. Mumuni Abubakari is the nurse in charge.
Family members think the condition is they attach it to witchcraft and other things, and because of that they are being stigmatized, and some are even outcast and abandoned. Really? Yes. And when they come here, they see the healthcare provider as a refuge, and that is why they come here. Some come no even health insurance, and when they come here, you have to treat such clients. They come no limbs and no digits. They can't even take fingerprints to access health insurance services.
On the outskirts of Gurungu is the village of Motori. There is no paved road leading there. It was a big struggle getting through to this enclave, and it's the place we were confronted with some of the shocking stories about leprosy in this region. On a dirt compound is a thatched roofed mud house. Out of it, a frail-looking old woman emerges and walks towards a mango tree to get fresh air. Her name is Dari Poga, a woman possibly in her 80s, living alone in this part of the village with her 13-year-old granddaughter. Dari Poga suffered leprosy at a younger age, but at that time, she did not know what it was. She used local concoctions in the hope that she would recover. But over time, her condition worsened. She has lost all her 10 fingers, and from afar, you might think both hands have been amputated from the wrist. She remembers exactly how one after the other, she lost all her fingers.
Local medication, a black concoction she used to smear on the skin. Okay. Yeah, he used to smear on the body.
And did she know it was a medical condition or?
Say initially they sent her to Wa when the condition set in, and that time Upper West wasn't developed as it stands today, and she went there and they said there wasn't medicating as at that time, and she came back. She said the experience is that it will swell from the digits, and it will start chopping off from the digits. from digit to a digit, call them phalanges. One phalanges to the next phalanges, to the next phalanges, till it reached the palm. That was how they start falling, and that was the beginning where he cannot feed herself.
Leprosy affects the tissues, especially the cartilage, and then more importantly, affects the nerves. Now, when the nerves are affected, it means that there is loss of sensation. Okay? It's not loss of mobility, although there is to some degree, but largely loss of sensation because it's the peripheral nerves or the nerves that are on the surface, if I put it that way, that are affected. Which means that you do not feel pain, you don't feel sensation. For that reason, you can injure yourself and not realize it. Okay? So they end up with sores and with ulcers that eat away at the flesh. The disease in itself also technically eats away at the flesh, the cartilage, and the bone. And so over the years, you get the digits or the extremities receding. And that's where you end up with this club-like features of the fingers or the toes.
And for this old woman, it appears the disease has also affected her eyes, so she tears up unknowingly. She manages to clean those tears with her disfigured hand. Daripuga has lost 4 of her 10 children. The rest hardly visit. In fact, for over 5 years now, none has visited her. All she has now is her life and her granddaughter. She goes to bed without any idea where her next meal would come from, until good Samaritans pass by and offer them food. Daripuga says at times they sleep on empty stomach.
Okay, what basically she's saying is that it's food. If she get money, she can buy food and cook and eat. She's happy. Apart from that, what again does she need? That's what she's telling us.
All she needs is daily meals.
Daily meals. Yes, that's what she said.
Today, what she had survived on until our arrival was this mashed local staple called tozafi, made of corn flour. It wouldn't take a child less than a minute to consume it all. But because it's not enough, Daripuga sips it hourly so it can sustain her throughout the day. Anytime she's unwell and had to visit the local health facility, she treks for miles on her deformed legs, which have only her 2 big toes left.
She rather said before she can embark on the journey, she needs to set off as early as possible before the sunrise. She have to walk small. Sometime before she get to the health center, the cleaners are still even cleaning around. So she will wait when they finish cleaning everything, just take care of her, serve her the medication.
And then she treks back.
So you can see where she lives. You might think it's an abandoned structure. No, it's not an abandoned structure. That's where she rests her head. And at times when there's nobody here, she has nothing to eat because there's nothing she can do for herself. You can also check on where she sleeps. This is where she sleeps. And she's here alone with her granddaughter. And if the granddaughter is not available, there's nothing she can do.
Half of the little space inside where she sleeps is occupied by a number of cooking pots and other utensils. Some 2 small openings in this room provide some amount of ventilation for her. The structure looks very weak, one that could collapse anytime.
Leprosy is a disease that lasts for a long time. It can last for a lifetime. It may not send you to an early grave per se, but it will live with you forever and really take the joy out of life for you. So people can have leprosy and it can take up to 5 years or even 20 years for it to become manifest. And once you have it and it's not treated, you can have it for life.
The woman got into contact with us at the latter stages of the disease. And normally at the latter stages, it comes with a lot of complications. So once it comes to those complications, we may end up treating the disease, but issues of missing toes, missing fingers are very difficult to manage.
The myths and misconceptions surrounding the disease are making the leprosy fight difficult.
Seth Kwame Boateng with our latest Hotline documentary. Let's go back to our earlier story where the Ghana Health Service is also admonishing Ghanaians on how to wear the masks or the face shield. They're saying not to substitute the wearing of face shields with a mask. Director of Health Promotion at the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Dacosta Abuaje, is joining me on Zoom. Hi, Dr. Dacosta. Thank you for your time this afternoon. I'm hoping that you can hear me, Doc, so we can start our conversation on the face shields. For the ordinary eye, wearing a face shield essentially covers your face up, makes it difficult for any sort of droplets to come close to you. How is it not enough? Well, we can get to hear from Dr. Dacosta Abuaje shortly. Let's listen to what the Ghana Health Service says.
Be on hard surfaces that you may touch. So as you touch, you may touch your eyes, your nose, or your mouth. It may get infection. So in that context, we preach hand washing with soap and running water. So that is the basis for that other intervention. But then there are instances that you may not be able to maintain that required social distance, or what we call the physical distance. So you need to have a blockage. And that blockage comes to the use of the face mask, or what they call the face covering. And it's very, very important. But the idea is that you are trying to prevent the virus from getting into the mucosa of any part of the body that may get infection. So you try to prevent your nose, your mouth from the virus from getting into you.
Let's get on Zoom right now. Dr. Dacosta Abuaje joins me. Doc, thank you for your time this afternoon. I was asking for you to give us more education on why a face shield is just not enough.
Okay, thank you. In fact, in the light of the new evidence that we have, we certainly know that the virus suspends in a confined air-conditioned room. So it is not advisable to wear a face shield in such a condition and in such an environment. We will implore our media houses of personnel to wear the face mask. And if you need additional layer, you can wear the face shield as well. So it should be together, but it shouldn't be alone. So that is what is happening. But ideally, my colleague explained at the press conference, initially, even if you look at the EI, it was in because of the people with hearing impairment and other things. So it is certainly not a substitute for a face mask. So let me repeat it again. I will encourage Ghanaians to wear the face shield with the face mask, or the face mask alone, not the face shield.
Not the face shield alone. Let's do a bit more of education. For people who still don't seem to get it, because we've been saying this for some time now, but there are still people who seem to believe that it's just, I mean, the face shield is enough. Does it mean that we should just dump the face shield altogether, because there's no point if it doesn't protect, and if we have to wear that and wear the mask again? To what extent does it help if we don't have to dump it altogether?
Oh, thank you. So like I've said, our protocol is that people should wear face masks. And we have the three types of the face mask, which we have the N95, we have the cloth one, and we have the surgical ones. So that is what is recommended. but people can wear the face shield as an additional layer to protect themselves, depending on where they are, but not necessary to add any protection to it. So the minimal protection that we expect Ghanaians to have is, will be derived from the face mask, the 3 types, that's the surgical, the cloth one, and the N95. But if you like, you can wear the face shield as an additional layer. But the face shield should not be used alone, whether in the marketplace, whether in confined places, or anywhere. We've seen the trend. Now, today, there was a little bit of good news. If you could remember, our infection active cases actually keeps reducing. Obviously, it's reduced from 5,000 to about 3,000 and something. So if Ghanaians should continue to adhere to the safety protocols, it means we will certainly be getting a downward trend. And that is what we like. So we don't want a situation whereby people actually keep wearing the face shield, and that becomes another a problem for us as a country, and also in terms of the education. So what I would actually say is that people should actually concentrate on what we have advised them to do in the safety protocols, which is the face mask, any of the 3 types, but more importantly, if you want to wear the face shield, wear it with a face mask on.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dacosta Abuaji. He's Director of Health Promotion with the Ghana Health Service, helping us with a bit of education there on why the face mask or the face shield alone is not enough, especially when you're in a concentrated area. We'll keep doing these education, sessions, and hopefully we'll be able to get there. Now, a 28-year-old has been stabbed to death near a registration center in Banda Kabrono in the Bono region. Silas Walochame, who was a fresh graduate of the Akemoda Teacher Training College, was stabbed in the back when he was allegedly accosted by persons eyewitnesses have identified as NPP activists. There are reports of brewing tensions between NPP and NDC activists in the area, but family of Silas says he was not into politics and was only returning home from a visit to his pastor at Wenchi Methodist. Micah Pedro, who is the younger brother and also took him to the Wenchi Methodist Hospital, told JoyNews his brother died around 6 a.m. on Tuesday morning without a word to him.
I was called by my elders, who told me my brother was hurt and had been brought to the hospital. So when I got there, I asked them what happened, and they told me my brother went to Wenchi Methodist Church, and that the head pastor of the church had asked him to come and see him about a discussion he wanted them to have. So on his way back from the place, he got to Doma Ahinko. A car approached him. Then, a group of people asked him where he was from. He said he was from Bada Ahinko, and that was when he was stabbed with a knife. Then they got to Bada Ahinko Hospital, where they said they could not do anything about it. So they took him to the Wenchi Methodist Hospital. They did all they could, but around 6:30 a.m., God called him.
Methodist, Wenchi Methodist Hospital, and the Ebedru Hanum so Omuye Omom, the Mubeti my bet Nina Anye, and a patutu around 8 o'clock one Nyame, and Nyame 2 Nisafreno. No want Nyame no to me Casacra, want to me anka one way the crampo, and Cheremi, and one say.
When I went to see my brother, he was not able to talk at all. He couldn't even say a word to me. He was just looking at my face. So when we got there, the doctors did all they could, but he wasn't able to talk still. They used a knife to stab his back once, but really penetrated through him. According to the doctors, the knife affected his lungs and the flow of blood. They did all they could, but it didn't work.
omuchi omudi mo ayeno omudi chimoja no omudi sinu so ana omuchi moja no bi besti anyi.
Other heavy dose of soft stories. Correspondent Precious Semevo has been following up on this story. And he joins me on the phone right now. Precious, has there been any arrest or any new development on this story?
Well, you see, as of now, no arrest, at least from what we know, from Banda Ahinko, the police command. But the National Democratic Congress, they have been, speaking. And the communications director in the Bono region, Charles Akoya, now he is saying that it is sad that they had to lose an innocent and non-political activist in these circumstances. But he is accusing the parliamentary candidate of the New Patriotic Party and his people of being behind this attack because of the misunderstandings and some huge skirmishes that happened yesterday as a result of the voter registration ongoing in the Banda district. That appears to have escalated, and a roadblock was mounted leading to the attack and subsequent death of this young man. We've been speaking to the communications director, Tatakowa, and we can listen to him.
For me, I don't see the presence of the security in Banda, and I don't see the presence of the police, the military and the police, because they are there. But whatever these people want to do, they do it with an ease. So the NDC should take it upon themselves and come down to Banda to come and support their own. It's not about Ahmed. It's the hatred towards the voter people. All this thing that has led to someone's losing his life is because of the hatred towards the votarians. Because these people have been there, some have been there over 100 years. Some came about 13 years ago. They've been fishing. The only source of market for the Banda constituency is for the fishing community. Why today? Because there is a registration exercise going on. Everybody wants to come from the MPP national headquarters to from Nana Akufo-Addo or wherever, bringing all the hoodlums to come and attack the Banda people, and now even they can't even move out from one community to the other community, because as I'm speaking, they said there is no movement between Bongase and Banda Inkro. Bongase people shouldn't come to Banda Inkro. Banda Inkro people shouldn't come to Kabrono, and these people shouldn't go where. So if in case someone is sick, if in case someone is in situation that need an assistance, how do we manage them? How do we manage them?
So that's the NDC's communications officer there in the Bono region. Precious, how have you been speaking as well to the other side, the NPP?
Yes, the New Patriotic Party, they have not directly responded to these allegations and then the attacks that led to the death of sellers. But their regional youth organizer, that is Razak Opon, he has been addressing the media earlier today in Banda, where he is also making counter accusations against the member of parliament for Banda, that is Honorable Ahmed Ibrahim, that he is also behind the attacks that happened yesterday as a result of the registration exercise as to who has the right to register in Banda. And he is saying that they do not have any intentions of going on a reprisal attack because of the advice that they have from their leaders, that they are trusting the Ghana Police Service to apprehend and then let the law take its course as far as those who were involved in the attacks. Now, they are saying that their accounts were vandalized. About 5 or 6 of their people got injured in the process, and this is something that they want the Ghana police to deal with, and they are accusing directly Honorable Ahmed Ibrahim as the one behind the attacks visited on them yesterday.
Well, certainly we'll be following up with the police, and we'll get more responses from this, and may his soul rest in peace. There. Correspondent Precious Semevo speaking to me from the Bono region. Precious, thank you. Let's get back on the phone. We're taking you back to the Bono region, Banda to be specific. I have Chief Inspector Augustine Kingsley Opon. He's the Bono region police PRO, to help us understand what has happened so far on that case. Sir, thank you for your time this afternoon. Have you arrested anybody yet following the death of this young man?
Thank you, my sister, for giving me this opportunity. And greetings to all your authorities. No, we have not arrested anybody.
Okay, why is that? Shouldn't you have been able to make an arrest by now?
No, not yet. The case is under investigation.
So what do you know as of now? That, I mean, people, the gentleman's family, they are concerned. People who live in the area, they are concerned about their safety and about their security. What can you tell these people who are expecting to hear from the police over this murder at this time?
Thank you, my sister, once again. I can tell you that officially we have not established the death of any person, but we know that a person has been stabbed with a sharp implement. That one is factual. But as per the death of someone not yet established, we are waiting for the doctors to confirm that. We have given the case to an investigator to investigate thoroughly the end, so that the command will take decision on what we should do next. The people within the community have been assured of their security. The military and the police presence there is enough to cater for the security situation at the Banda area.
I'm sure in a few hours you will be able to establish the death of this person, because it has been confirmed by his family that he's dead. They've been to the mortuary themselves. So we'll leave you to it. We'll come back to you for more on that, sir. Thank you for your time this afternoon. Inspector Augustine Kingsley Opon is the Bono region PRO for the police. Now, amidst the rapid spread of coronavirus, President Akufo-Addo has held his first virtual cabinet meeting. The government was compelled to hold this virtual cabinet meeting after some top government officials tested positive for the virus.
So, members of Cabinet, this is the first such meeting, I think, in the history of our country, a virtual meeting of Cabinet. So we're all part of a historic process. And God willing, and I look at the Secretary to the Cabinet, I hope it is going to be a successful venture. We can begin our meeting, and we'll do so by asking the Minister for Planning to give us an opening prayer.
And you definitely know that what happens in cabinets will never be put on your camera. And so that's where it ends for you, the prayer. We wish them all the best with that one as well. But this is where I have to end my part of the show. But we'll bring you a lot more stories in our subsequent bulletins, Joy News Prime. But then there's also Business Live. Of course, you want to stay for that. Log on to myjoyonline.com for more news. My name is Gifty Andopia. It's always a pleasure having you. Let's do this again tomorrow. Thank you.